Good morning or good afternoon. Today you will be taking part 2 of Interim Assessment 1. In this test, you will be testing your primary sourcing skills. Before you begin, please make sure to pause the video now and review all the expectations of the test. Today, if you are watching this video, I am assuming that you have already completed part 1. So you should only have questions 12 and 13 left to do on the test. If you have not completed the first part, please continue your testing on that part and then move on to the second part. If this is your second day of testing, this is your last day of testing. So you're going to go to DataLink and take this code here and type it into DataLink. On DataLink, after you've typed in that code, the test will appear with all of your answers from the previous day. You may have already started part 2. If you have started already, I want you to review this video and review your answers, because this section of the test, questions 12 and 13, are worth the most points. So here we are at section 2, part 2. As I go through this, you're going to watch this video. I'm going to explain a question, and then I'm going to ask you to pause. Answer the question, then you come back and you watch the next question. So for every single EBOS we do, there is a central question. This central question is, should the American Revolutionary War have been avoided? Should we have done this or should we not have done this? So what you have to do is first read through the historical context. And as you read through the historical context, you have to ask yourself, what was the war all about? Then you'll see all the sources, A through D. You will use these sources to answer the next few questions, but you don't need to look at all of them right now. So let's move to question 1. For question 1, it gives you source A. It asks you to look at the source information for this source and determine if it is credible. We see the source information here. We see that this is source A here. And we see the text here. Question 1, source A, asks you to consider the source information provided for source A. What detail shows the credibility of source A as evidence for why the British government levied the taxes in the Stamp Act? Use evidence from the text and write your answer in the space provided. So for this question, you're telling us what detail shows the credibility, the trustworthiness, the reliability of source A as evidence for why the British government was levying taxes in the Stamp Act. So what detail shows why this is a trustworthy source? So you're going to read through this sourcing information and this source. Actually, it just tells you to look at the source information. So just look at the source information and tell us what detail from this source information makes you go, this is a credible source. This is a reliable source. Pause the video now and answer that question. Question 2 asks you to look at sources B and C with their sourcing information and the text of the source. Source C, sourcing information, the text of the source is these 2 images. For question 2, it asks you, do sources B and C offer similar or different arguments for avoiding the Revolutionary War? So are both saying we should avoid the Revolutionary War? Is one saying we should fight it and one saying we shouldn't? Are they both saying we should avoid it, but for different reasons? Compare and contrast the arguments they're making about going to war with Britain. Decide whether or not they are telling the same or the different, and make sure to cite evidence as you briefly support your answer with information from both sources. Please pause now and answer question 2. Question 3. Question 3 asks you to look at source D, the source information here, and the source here. As you look at question 3, it gives you a statement. The American colonists' rights as English citizens were being taken away in Massachusetts. So they had rights and they were being taken away in Massachusetts. Support this statement with evidence from source D. You need to look in source D and find information that backs up this statement, that agrees with this statement. You should then explain why the American colonists were having their rights taken away in Massachusetts according to source D. Pause this video now and answer source D. Question 3. Question 4 is still working with source D. You have to select one detail in the source information located here, located here. Using one detail, tell us which detail raises concerns about the usefulness of source D as evidence of the feelings of average Americans during the time period of 1773 to 1775. Which detail from this source makes you go, maybe I can't trust this as much as I would like to? And for question 5, you're explaining why you chose the detail. Sorry, in question 4, you're explaining why you chose the detail that you chose before. So you choose one of these details, then the next, you explain why you chose that detail and why that detail raises concerns about using as evidence for the feelings of the average American during the time period of 1773 to 1774. Pause the video now and answer both parts of question 4. Question 5. This is the final question. This question requires the most response and it is worth the most points. Final question. The information provided in sources A through D is credible. Use these sources to respond to the compelling question below. A student is researching the American Revolution. The compelling question is this: should the American Revolutionary War have been avoided or was it needed? You need to first develop a claim. So, yes, the American Revolution War should have been avoided, or yes, it was needed. Tell us which side you're taking. To answer this question correctly, you must take a side. Explain how one source supports your claim. Maybe there's multiple sources to support your claim. You can use details and examples from multiple sources to support your answer. You need to acknowledge, though, that there are sources that disagree with you, and find an example of one source that does not support your claim. And as you do that answer, I want you to think to yourself, why don't I care what this source is saying? Why does it not matter? You're going to write your answer in the space provided. This should be your longest response. Ideally, you will cite all 4 of the sources, and you have all 4 sources over here: A, B, C, and D. Make sure to answer the question as fully as possible. This question is worth more points than the other half of the test. So really, please take it seriously and take your time. If you have any questions, please raise your hand. You may pause the video and answer the final question. Thanks for watching.